A wonderful good morning to everyone, and welcome to the Export Basics Launching Your Export Business During a Pandemic session. Today's session is intended to highlight the key issues to be considered when making the decision to export, especially at these uncertain times. Our facilitator this morning is none other than Hilary Bangoshe, popularly known as Coach Bangoshe. Coach has over 30 years experience in export sales, exporting products for blue chip companies like SM Jaleel and Company Limited, Caribbean, and Coca-Cola across the Greater Caribbean, Latin America, North America, and parts of Europe. Coach now operates a business academy which exports its services online to the Caribbean and a marketing consultancy firm specializing in exporting. He brings to the workshop a wealth of experience in both exports and training. To improve the quality of the webinar, we're asking persons to ensure that your videos remain disengaged for the duration of the session and mic be placed on mute. If you have any questions, please place them in the chat box addressed to everyone. We will be answering questions at selected intervals, so be sure to input yours as soon as it comes to mind. I would also like to encourage you to use the raise hand options for any questions. Without further ado, I will now pass the mic to Coach.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Tanika, for those kind words. And it's good to be here. Thank you, Export TT, and thank you to all the participants who are here. You know, it's always good for me to be part of new ventures, new initiatives, and considering that you are here, I believe that you are considering venturing off into a new initiative in your business, or if you haven't started a business and you're thinking about it, that you're venturing off into a new venture, a new entrepreneurial adventure. So I want to congratulate you, and I want to wish you all success. And I hope this morning's session will whet your appetite for you to be able to go on to do more exporting. So I'm going to share my screen. Good. So you should be seeing the screen here now. So one of the things that I wanted to start off with in discussing is for us to recognize that Trinidad and Tobago always historically relied on international trade. Exporting and importing is not, for Trinidad and Tobago, it's not a choice. It is something that is crucial, and it is something that we have to do. If you look at the trade to GDP ratio for a country like the United States of America, you would see their trade to GDP ratio is something like 25%. If you look at for something like Canada, their trade to GDP ratio is about 30%. But for Trinidad, historically, we have always operated about 60 to 6, sometimes up to 70% of our GDP is based on trade. So therefore, unlike other larger, more developed countries, as an island, we depend on trade to survive. And therefore, it is for us, importing and exporting is not a choice. It's not something that we would like to do. It is for the survival of our island, we have to trade. And therefore, it makes sure that in these times, exporting is very, very crucial for us as a country. And it is good, therefore, to recognize that by you being here this morning, it means that you want to venture off into exporting. And I want to encourage you and to tell you that not only is it a good initiative for yourself, but for us as a country, we depend on you to start exporting. The impact of the pandemic has even been more acute and more important for us to be able to export. Because what has happened, the local GDP, the local activity of business within the island has declined, so that over the years 2002 to 2015, we had a fairly buoyant economy. And from 2015 onwards up to now, the economy has been very lackluster. And then with this year, with the advent of the pandemic, the GDP has fallen even further. I don't have the accurate estimates, but some persons suggest that our GDP, some of the economists said that our GDP is back to where it was in 2012, 2013. So therefore, you're talking about a significant reduction in us being able to succeed. So I want us to bear that in mind as we start today's session. The other thing that I want us to remember is that exporting, even though it is crucial, has its challenges. It's fairly challenging for us to be able to export. We can't export easily because there are port challenges, there are licensing challenges, there's documentation challenges, and there's online negotiation. So therefore, there's a lot of work that is involved in trying to get for us to be able to export. So exporting is not an easy venture. So for you to say that you're now embarking upon export means that you want to be able to venture into a field that is not only important to us as a country and to yourself, but also is wrought with difficulties, with challenges. It is not easy. But on the other hand, it is not impossible. And exporting does not have to only be for large companies. Exporting can be for companies at all different levels. So if you see on the screen, you will see that there are 3 tiers that we are using. You can say that there are 3 tiers of exporting and 3 tiers of companies. And at the bottom there, we have tier 3 companies. These are companies that are just starting off. Companies that may be at the entrepreneurial stage early on. Somebody has an idea. Someone may have come today just for the sake of finding out, what it is about exporting. Can I start a business in exporting? And therefore, we have a lot of tier 3 companies. And then up from that, you have companies who are fairly active in the local market and may have done some exporting here and there, sporadic, and want to move to a bigger level. And then there are the high level companies that some of those that I was called like Carib Brewery, Advanced Foam, SM Jalil, Associated Brands that are fairly adept at exporting and export throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. But there are opportunities for everyone. So don't believe that because you are starting off and that you're not the size of an Associated Brands, that therefore exporting is not for you. There are challenges, but there are also solutions to these challenges. So whether or not you're a tier 3 company, small, initial, entrepreneurial, sometimes a 1-man or 2-man show, or a tier 2 company or a tier 3 company, you must remember that very much you are the possibility of exporting. There's a possibility for you to export as well. So what we want to do is that I want to go to a polling question. We have a polling question 1, and I would like us to answer this question. How do you see yourself? Into which tier would you categorize your business? Tier 1 is the high-end companies. Tier 2 in the middle, they've started exporting. Or tier 3, when you are now embarking upon exporting. And I just give you a few minutes. Yeah, just for the board.
Give him right now, or we can come up. I'm going to give him now then.
Okay. So we have the results, and we have 76% are tier 3 companies, 18% tier 2 companies, and 6% tier 1 companies. So I want to welcome everyone and to recognize that by having such a mix in the audience, a lot of what we're going to say may be old hat, I suppose, in a way, for tier 1 companies, and a lot of the tier 2 companies are going to be aware of it. But most of what we are saying is pitched towards the tier 3 companies. But I want to welcome everyone, and it is such a good opportunity to see how easily these export polls can be. These polls can be. Okay. One of the reasons why it is possible for all of us to be able to enter into exporting is because of this phenomena called the rise of the long tail of products. And this is an interesting phenomenon. I just try to explain it. You know, what they have found, it started off, it was really discovered in jukeboxes. They found that in a bar, if you have a jukebox, where people go to the bar and put coins in and choose songs. When that was happening in those days, in fact, that's where I was growing up in those days, where you would visit a bar and have a jukebox there in the bar. I don't know if they still have that. I don't visit bars anymore. But the phenomena is that 90% of the persons chose probably 20% of the songs. So that many or most of the songs in the jukebox was never played. You had them there, B14, according to that famous song, but they were never played. However, once they started to move music online, they found that almost all music is played. What does that mean? It means that once you open yourself to the global market, there are persons for almost every taste. And therefore, that creates a significant opportunity, because once you give rise to opportunity for variety, it seems as the human person, the human being, Homo sapiens, has no limit to variety. And in fact, this is a very interesting one. A little example I brought here which was Lipton's tea, and in fact is very relevant to today's session, because we're going to have an entrepreneur, a successful exporting entrepreneur, who is going to come and give us his case study later on this morning. But a good example is Lipton tea. Lipton tea announced earlier this year, and this is nothing to do with the pandemic, that they are considering stopping, this is Unilever, they are considering stopping the production and sale of Lipton teas. Now that's an interesting thing, because at present I am drinking some Lipton tea here myself. But what has happened is that Lipton tea depends upon a large volume of one type of tea. And therefore they make massive long runs of one type of tea. And what they have been finding over the last 10 years is that persons don't want one type of tea. They want a variety of teas. So therefore, what has happened is that there is no longer the possibility to manufacture one single variety and produce it in massive quantities. And therefore, what people want now is a wide variety of teas. And I would have in my office here, I have at least 15 varieties of teas. So what does it say? What does it say to us? It says to us that if it is that we are considering export, just like music, And we come up with a unique brand, a unique variety of tea. We can find persons who will be interested in that variety of tea. We can find persons who will be interested in getting that variety of tea in their homes. So it creates a significant opportunity for us to have this phenomena, and this creates a significant opportunity for small island states like Trinidad and small entrepreneurs. It means that if we produce a unique variety of any product, be it teas or something else, we can find that there is the possibility that there will be persons interested in our varieties. And therefore, that leads us to have a very, very great opportunity. So if we look at our diagram here, we can see these are the products like Lipton teas, where everybody wants one variety. And this long tail is what the long variety of teas are. And therefore, if you could produce a product somewhere along this spectrum, you will find persons who will be very much interested in your tea. So what I want to ask, polling question number 2, where do you see your products falling? Is it that you are producing a product that has one variety over large runs, or are you producing a product that has many small varieties and therefore they are going after particular niches? And let's see what happens. And wow, you know, we get, well, I'm not surprised. We have at least 100% who have said that, oh, it's adjusting. 175% say my product is similar to the orange part of the curve, where it is a large variety, it's a unique variety. And 36%, my product is similar to the red part of the curve. So therefore, well, it's still changing, 31%. So therefore, what we're looking at is the possibility, I would assume, that those persons producing in the red part of the curve will be producing generic products, let's say like peppers or pepper sauce or something like that. Whereas products, the unique will be producing at 63% in the market. Okay, so I will share now the results are 63% versus 38%. Let's look at that. 63% versus 38%, and share the results. Good. Okay, I would like to just to open up a little bit before we go on to the next slide and ask if there are any questions that you can raise your hands. If there are any questions, any person would like to ask as to what we have done so far.
At the moment, Coach, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat box, so I would just want to encourage participants. Now is the time. Do you have any questions thus far for what has been presented?
Okay, just to remind us, what we're saying is saying that it is, oh, we have someone, Brent is Brent, could you go ahead and ask your question?
Okay, hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Seeing that the curve has the two colors,
yes,
and products that fall in the red,
yes,
right? Given the Lipton example, what would a company who falls within that category, how would the market be for them? Would it make sense, as you say, like the generic products, for example, pepper sauce? Would it make sense to enter that market based on the rise of the long tail of products?
That's a good question. So what I am suggesting is that probably it would be better for you to move your product into the long tail. So that's, for example, let us take the example of Lipton teas, or let's take the example of peppers. If you're producing a generic pepper or a generic pepper sauce, you would be in this category here.
Correct.
I've noticed, however, that there are some persons, in fact, I was trying to get their product on here. They call Perfect Peppers. They were in one of our earlier sessions, and I was speaking to the entrepreneur this morning. And Perfect Peppers have made their products into, they've gone after pepper jelly. And they have gone after pepper jelly, and now what he's telling me that the pepper jelly can have coffee flavors in it. So what he has done is that they have taken a product that is here, but has so differentiated it that it becomes in the long tail. Another person was in one of our training sessions. He recently, he's also producing a pepper sauce, which will be here. But recently I saw him launch a variety of pepper sauce with green apples, a green apple pepper sauce. Now, again, a green apple pepper sauce will move from this period here into this session down here. So my suggestion is that it would be a good idea if you're in here, because to be in here, it's very competitive and it's very difficult for you to be able to compete effectively. But if you're down here, basically, and you're on the internet, you can find someone who will be interested in your products. I find the concept of a green apple pepper sauce an interesting one. I would have probably intuitively thought of a pepper sauce with a local fruit, like for example, Pomerac pepper sauce. That's what I would have thought. But I don't know, probably making a pepper sauce into a green apple pepper sauce may have a better appeal, because now you have a product like green apples that is very popular or very well known internationally. And then you're taking a green apple and therefore you're converting it into something that is into a pepper sauce. No, I don't know. It may add benefit, but that is how I would think. I would think is that taking your initial product here and moving it into the long tail, you may stand a better chance of success than staying within this area here. What do you think, Brent? Any other comments?
Yes, Coach. Karen is asking, what if the product is livestock?
Yeah, what product is livestock? You know, it is very difficult for you to move a product like livestock into the long tail. And I'm not saying that you can't succeed in this red zone. It's just that the competition is very intense. Let's say you started to make teas and you were making black tea, which is Lipton's tea, produces a black tea, a regular black tea. And you coming out with your own regular black tea. You're going to have to be able to compete with Lipton's on price and on distribution and on volume. So if you're producing livestock, let's say chickens, you would have to be able to see, okay, for me to export chicken meat, I am going to come up against a lot of international players producing chicken meat. It is not impossible, but one would have to see that, therefore, I would have to be able to sell my chicken meat at going international prices. Whereas if I decided that I was not going to sell chicken meat and I'm just, I don't know, let's say you take chicken meat and mix it with a possum. I don't know if that's possible. But you are producing something like that, then you don't have much competition. And you may be able to charge a higher price and you are more open to opportunities than if you're selling something in this area. So I am not saying that you can't succeed in producing product, in exporting products in this area. But what would happen is that you will have to be able to compete with the best. You would have to be able to compete at a global price and distribution and marketing level. However, when you're producing along this line, people, because of your unique variety and because of your uniqueness, may be willing to purchase at a higher price because they are getting a unique variety. And because they're getting a unique variety, they may be willing to operate at a higher price. They may be willing to see you and your advertising as more unique, and therefore they don't hold it up to the standards of a Lipton's. So whenever you're operating in this area, yes, you can succeed, but you have to be able to compete at price, distribution, and promotion with the best in the world. When you're operating on this level, there is a lot more generosity from the customer to forgive you for small sins and may even be willing to pay higher prices. So that, for example, someone told me she sells from Tobago a box of beauty products made with products in Tobago. And someone bought it for his girlfriend in Europe, and they paid 50 euros for the box, but it cost them 50 euros to ship the box to his girlfriend's place in Europe. Now that's a 50-50. And the person was somewhat perturbed that the cost of shipment was so high, but because it is so unique, these are beauty products produced with Tobago products, his girlfriend can't get that anywhere else. So if it is that this young man is competing with 3 other persons for the love of this girlfriend, by coming up with this unique Tobago beauty products, even though it is now 100 euros that he had to pay for it, still he may be willing to forego 100 euros for the uniqueness. If it is that he was going to buy Avon or some more common, more popular, I wouldn't say common, more popular brand, he would not be willing to pay 50% in shipping costs. So that's an example. Good. So let's move on. One of the things that we must recognize when we're looking at export, we must look and see that we live in a very unique opportunity to get into exports. Let me tell you why. Because experts, and these are marketing experts, have said that we have never had a period in the history of humanity where there's been so much change in such a short space of time. So what normally takes decades of change is compressed into a very, very short period of time. Now, what does this mean? This means that there are significant opportunities in operating in the long tail, because there are so much change taking place in such a short space of time that there are opportunities to find things that are not there already. So I have put in some things here, and let's look at them. First of all, we live in an era of trade agreements. So we have CARICOM, CSME, Caribbean Basin Initiative, CARIFORUM, CARIBCAN, CARICOM. So we have all of these, and the Colombia Agreement. We have all of these new agreements, and therefore Trinidad has been pursuing trade agreements, and we are now members of a number of trade agreements. I just gave an example of a few. But what does that mean? That means that we have an ability to export into a wide range of territories that we couldn't export in before without facing significant duties and tariffs. So that's a big opportunity in that we have a bigger market. Second point, we have never had a situation like the Paris Agreement. And in the Paris Agreement, there are now a lot of new rules in trying to be environmentally friendly. So they want to make sustainable cities, sustainable transport, sustainable energy. So that offers opportunities as well. How fast can you come up with a product or service that can fit into taking advantage of the desire for the world to move towards a sustainable physical environment? So this is an opportunity that was not offered before, because everyone starts off at ground zero. The race, everyone starts at the start of the race. So if it is that you can come up with products or services that caters to the sustainable physical environment, you can move fast and you can have an opportunity. We are also living in a time when the United Nations has come up with the 2030 sustainable goals, and therefore United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, eradication of poverty, women empowerment, education for all, zero unemployment. These are a lot of new initiatives. So how can you be part and parcel of that initiative? So let's take one, women empowerment. If it is that we live in a world now that all of a sudden there is a bigger desire and interest to support women entrepreneurship, probably if you're a woman, or if you have, you want to get, you and your wife, or you and some ladies want to get together in a particular business that has women empowerment, then that's a great opportunity. You can see that this is an opportunity. Can you come up with a product for eradication of poverty? Can you come up with a product for education online? And then the technological revolution. We have the internet search, social media, new world of money, Bitcoins, and e-commerce. So when we have a whole new technological revolution taking place, this opens up new opportunities. How can I get involved? So if I just look at here, my little diagram, and this is just a snapshot of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 4, let's say 18 different opportunities that you could enter into and export that was not there before. All of these have developed in the last 5 years. So coming back to that point, we live in a time when there's never been so much opportunity compressed into such a short space of time. And therefore, how can we take advantage of that? What can we do? What can we do? Can we come up with something in the CSME? Can we come up with something in the Paris Agreement? Can we come up with something in the United Sustainable Development Goals? Can we come up in the internet search? What can we do to take advantage of this new opportunity? And so when we see that, so before I go on to that, I would like to before I go on to the next slide, I would just like to invite some comments on that. What do you think about this? What do you think about this, that we are living in a time that is unprecedented for opportunity? There is so much opportunity happening at such a short space of time that we have a great opportunity to do that. Any comments or any questions? Anyone, what do you think about this? What do you think about this, that we are living in unique times that offers opportunities of such a grand scale? No comments on that? I thought that for me, that is such an exciting possibility. Anyone else? Tanika, anyone asking any questions? Anyone like to or comment on this?
At the moment, Coach, Sorry about that. At the moment, persons are just asking for you to make the presentation that's a little bigger.
Make the presentation bigger.
Yeah, if you can put the slides on presentation mode because at the moment, it's very tiny,
Okay.
right? And in the comments, we are getting some agree. So Marianne, she's saying she completely agreed. It is for each of us to explore our creativity in implementing these agreements. Karen, he think it's amazing. Let me see. Yes, I love the times I'm living in. Karen is saying, however, I think the awareness of these opportunities are lacking.
Okay. Good point. Good point. That the awareness of the opportunities are lacking. And yeah, and I agree. I think very often this is a slide that I would like to keep on my desk personally, because it gives me it anytime I feel that they are talking about that there is a reduction in opportunity. I would like to say that when I look at this slide, I say, no, there is certainly not a reduction in opportunity. There's never been more opportunity than now. The challenge is, how do we make use of this opportunity? How do we capture this opportunity? So therefore, it means that when you're coming up with your product, if you want to move a product from in that red zone ahead of the long tail, and you want to move into the long tail, I would like to suggest that therefore you should look into one of these changes and see, how can I use this to my benefit? How can I use this to my benefit? With women empowerment, I have a product, but can I adapt it to take advantage of women empowerment? I have a product, but can I adapt it to take into consideration the Paris Agreement? I have a product, but how can I take advantage of the fact that we are living during a time of online education? I have a product, but how can I make use of the Zoom technology, the Zoom revolution? And therefore, this gives us opportunities that we never saw before. So what are the benefits, therefore? We've seen that there are opportunities. But what are the benefits if you go after these opportunities? I would think there are a few here I just jotted down. You can increase your sales. You can increase your profits. You reduce risk in the local market. You lower unit costs because you have economies of scale. You got a bigger market. You can overcome seasonal fluctuations like the carnival industry. I think the carnival industry is a good example. What gradually the carnival persons recognize that they could take the same product and extend its life by moving to carnivals across the world. Once upon a time, carnival was only a Trinidad phenomenon. But if you have carnivals all over the world, there is no reason why you can't take your product that is popular for carnival in Trinidad and go to Grenada carnivals, St. Vincent Carnival, Jamaica Carnival, London Carnival, Toronto Carnival, Brooklyn Carnival. So what it is that you can expand and get out of seasons. You can also extend your product line. So therefore, if you come up with a great soca song or a great soca dance, probably you can use that throughout the entire year, as opposed to only at the carnival period. And therefore, there is a lot of opportunity when you go on the international market. And then finally, there is a lot of business learning and cross-fertilization, because when you go into a foreign market, you get to learn things about the foreign market that you didn't know before. So therefore, you come back in a market with a new idea. So let's assume you were in the teas business, and then you started to export into Canada. But someone in Canada say, what is a popular tea here? We would like this particular type of tea. Now you may start to produce this for this market, and all of a sudden then you realize, wait, I can bring that into the Trinidad market. So therefore, there are a lot of opportunities, but there are also a lot of benefits. So I don't want you to think only on opportunities. There are opportunities and there are benefits. But there are also challenges. It's not all easy sailing, as I said in a previous slide. Not because there are great opportunities and there are great benefits, does it mean that it's easy to do. Exporting requires a new mindset, a paradigm shift in thinking. You have to change your mindset. You have to say that this is going to take on a new initiative. And I just wanted to highlight some of the challenges here. You may have to modify products or services. Very seldom, the product that you are selling on the local market, very seldom is the same product that you will be able to sell in other markets. Most likely, you will have to change it. So therefore, you have to be able to adapt your products to a new market. You have to come up with new marketing materials. I mean, one of the things I've learned is that if you're using a particular ethnic person or persons in your commercials, because you're going into a different market, you may have to change that picture. You may have to have a different model because there's a new market. You may have to have a different type of label. You may have to have a different scenario. I remember years ago when I was at Carib and we went to the Carib label as it exists in Trinidad, a lot of people told us outside, no, but we want a Caribbean looking label. There should be a coconut tree somewhere and there should be a beach. So that many times as you go forward, you may have to change your marketing material. That costs money, that costs initiative, that costs thinking. You may have to take on additional staff to adapt to markets abroad because it is not going to be as easy. So you may have to take on new markets. You may have to allocate resources to establish and maintain your business in a foreign market. I want to repeat this one, especially this one. When you venture into exporting, you have to invest in exporting. You can't just take what you have locally and say, well, I will sell it elsewhere. I will sell it on the international market. Because it would require you to do adaptation for your products. And this is something that many times persons don't envision. They believe that the same product I'm selling here, I can sell it in the foreign market. I'll give you an example. We have had, and we have a very strong history and experience with curry. And probably we may think that Trinidad curry is the best curry. But many international people will beg to differ. And therefore, when we find that we try to export our curries into other markets, you may find that that's not the color of curry that they know it as. That's not the taste. That's not the flavor. And therefore, you may have, okay, I have a good curry for the Trinidad market, but as I go overseas, that curry changes. So some time ago, Export TT led a trade mission to Europe, and in the trade mission to Europe, they found in the Netherlands, surprise, surprise, that curries were one of the fastest growing ethnic foods. Amazing. One of the fastest growing ethnic foods. So you say, well, okay, we have a lot of curry in Trinidad. Let's export our curries into the Netherlands. But it was not so easy because the Netherlands concept of curry is different to the Trinidad curry. So all of a sudden, yes, it is possible. There is a market, but you have to adapt your product. You can't export the same curry. And therefore, there is curry and there's curry and there's curry. Some time ago, they wanted to export curry into Martinique and Guadeloupe, the French territories. And again, curries is a fast-growing ethnic food, but they require and they believe that curry looks and tastes different for the curries that we have in Trinidad. So you have to be able to adapt it. So therefore, curry goat in Jamaica is a different curry goat than curry goat in Trinidad. And if you think that you could take a Trinidad curry goat and you put it into Jamaica, it's not going to be so. You're going to have to probably adapt it. It also takes several years, and I don't want this to frighten you off, but it is a growth process. So you may start exporting to one market or one product to a couple markets, but it takes a long period of time of experimentation and on working before you can make a significant success story. So if you're going off into export, don't think this is an easy walk in the park. Don't think, oh, well, I'm going to take my products now and I'm going to ship it all over the world. It's not going to be like that. It's going to require you to sit down and think through the process, and you're going to realize that there are certain adaptations you're going to have to make to get it into the other markets. You have to understand language, and you have to change cultural perceptions. One of the companies that does a lot of export in Trinidad is Advanced Foam. And recently, working as a consultant with them, they entered into the Dominican Republic market. And in the Dominican Republic market, how they sell mattresses is very different how they sell mattresses in the local market. So you have to adapt to that cultural change. You have to make changes. It calls for additional paperwork. It is not as if you're selling to Massy stores or Price Mart locally. You're going to have more documentation and work, and you're going to have a lot of more paperwork because you're entering into another nation state. And therefore, they are going to require documentation, and there's going to be a lot more paperwork. And you're going to have access into the market. You're going to have to say, well, it's one thing to get it into the market, but how are you going to distribute it within the market? And also, don't think that the people who are already there are going to just sit down and say, well, welcome you with open arms. They're going to see you as a new competitor. And they are going to say, well, how can I nullify this new competitor? And therefore, you must be able to see how you can enter the market. So I think I have it on another slide, but exporting is a lot like playing chess. It's moving in, trying to enter into different markets, and you have to know, how can I enter into a particular market, and what are the obstacles I'm going to face, and who is going to be there against me, and how can I overcome that? So I want to open it up to ask anybody has any questions.
Coach, I would like to go back up to when you were speaking about the agreements.
Yes.
Hesma would have asked, how do we take advantage of them?
Okay, I think the issue with let me go back up to there. The trade agreements is a particularly great benefit because, as I mentioned just now, as we go off into exporting, we are going to find that there are challenges and people don't want you to come into their markets. So they place obstacles in your way. But when you belong to a trade agreement, the company is saying, we are trying to help you come into our market. So recently, for example, President Trump, even though a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say about him, but he extended the Caribbean Basin Initiative Agreement for Caribbean countries' products going into the United States. And therefore, we get preferential treatment going into the United States. So when you can take advantage of that, the CARIFORUM agreement, and basically what you have to do, and the reason why export TT is hosting this is that Export TT, and we'll come to it later on, is your partner in entering to these markets. But for example, let's look at this one here, the CARIFORUM Economic Partnership Agreement. That is saying that they are allowing preferential treatment for you to be able to have products from the Caribbean enter into the European Union. Now that gives you a big headway, because otherwise they would lock you out of the European Union and they don't want you to enter. So I would like to say that by having a trade agreement and working with an institution like Export TT, you have an opportunity to enter into new markets. Does that answer your concern? Is anybody else? Does that answer your concerns?
Esma, can you give us a yes or a no in the chat so we'll know if everything would have been cleared? Coach, I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I believe yes. Okay, yes, she said yes. Well said.
What do you think about the challenges? Are there any comments on the challenges? Okay, no comments on the challenges. So I don't want to move ahead, and also to think that exporting goods is not the only way. I am into the export business as well, and I export my training courses. And therefore, one does not only have to export goods. So that, for example, I was telling one of my small business clients that produce beauty products, making beauty products out of local material. And I was saying, you know, don't only look at the exporting of beauty products. Probably you can actually show them and sell how to use local beauty products. Now it may be, so let's take an example of aloes. Someone may be producing a beautiful aloe sunblock. And therefore, when you go on the beach after the pandemic, of course, and you're using this aloe sunblock, it gives you a better tan, and it gives you a better feel. But it may be that you can say, well, okay, I don't only sell an aloe sunblock, but I have a Facebook page or a website or a YouTube channel, and I can actually offer a course in using or making beauty products using aloes. And you can get paid for that. So one, I don't want you to only limit yourself to only thinking about the possibility of exporting goods. There is the possibility of exporting services as well. So that you want to be able to export goods or goods and services. Also to remember that very often to sell a product, you may have to offer a service. I'll give you an example. Shamir is a very successful company, and they have spas in the malls, but recently they have been able to set up a Shamir Place branch in Canada. And by setting up a Shamir branch in Canada, they can now export services. So let's see what happens. Shamir is exporting physical products of Shamir that they make, but they're also exporting the services of Shamirs in their spa. So therefore, they're exporting goods and services. So one has to be able to see that there are possibilities not only in goods, but goods and services. So I want to go to the next level here. Are you ready? Are you ready? And what does it take to be ready? Are you ready? As an export-ready business is one that has capacity and resources. That you can actually have an ability to be able to export, and that you have to be ready to export. So an export-ready business is one that is one that has the capacity, has the resources to be able to export, and has the management to deliver a marketable product or service at a competitive price, can differentiate their products for the export market. And if this is true for you, then possibly you are ready. So we have gone through a number of different opportunities, benefits, and challenges. When you've listened to the opportunities, the benefits, and the challenges, I would like to open the discussion and find out, do you think that you're ready? Do you think that you are ready? And we're going to have a polling question on that just now, but let us have a little discussion. Any comments on that? Do you think that you are ready to be able to take on exports? Comments?
No comments on that at this time right now, Coach, but Ade, he's asking, I appreciate the point of adapting your product to the market, but what about adopting a blue ocean strategy to create a market for your existing product?
I think that's a great idea. Let me see how to answer this. To go into a brand new product, you want to remember that people think in set ways. So you still have to enter a category. People only buy categories. So like, for example, if you have your budget, think of yourself and having a budget at home. Your budget is divided into categories. So I have groceries, I have education, I have insurance, I have entertainment, I have rent or mortgage. So people think in their lives in categories. Therefore, for you to export, and this comes up to another training course that we offer at Export TT on finding your unique customer benefit. But when you come up and you think like that, you have to see that for you the product to sell, it has to be in a particular category. So that, for example, yes, you could come up with a blue ocean strategy, let's say online education. There were products there before. There was Teams, there were Google Meet, but Zoom came up with a new way of doing it that we are using Zoom right now. Now, what is interesting is that Microsoft Teams had a head start on Zoom. Google had a head start on Zoom, but Zoom saw it differently. But notice it's a particular category that already exists. So that Zoom has entered a product which has certain benefits, but into a category that already exists. For you to create a brand new category in people's mind, it's not an easy task. So yes, I would encourage people to go after blue ocean strategy, but bear in mind that your blue ocean product should fit into an existing category but has unique benefits. So when we speak about teas, for example, the market for teas already exists, but we are producing a unique tea. Tesla is into the market for cars, but they're producing a car with a unique characteristics. Amazon is doing sale of merchandise, but they are doing the sale of merchandise in a new way. So yes, by all means have a blue ocean strategy, but don't come up with something so blue ocean that people don't know where you are at. So that, for example, using the example of the Tobago beauty products, they are going into a category of beauty products, but they're making a product with a little difference. It's still a beauty product, but it is using material unique to Tobago. So it may be a unique cocoa. It may be a unique sand. I don't know what they put in the product. It may be a unique coconut oil. And there, yes, you can do blue ocean strategy, but don't go blue ocean so deep in the ocean. Try to stay closer to the shore. So try to take a category that already exists, that people already budget for, and create a product that fits into that with a unique characteristic. A unique characteristic. What is the advantage of this characteristic? Good. Any other comments?
Yes, Coach, we have quite a few. We have persons saying, to the question, are you ready to export? We have someone saying by next year, July. Some indicating not yet. One person saying thanks to Export ETM, almost ready. That's Mali. Marianne, yes, in the process of growing that aspect of my business. Karen is saying not yet, but knowing where I need to be is a good place to start. Ade, I'm not ready to export yet, but I'm aiming for Q2, Q3, 2021, sorry. He's saying read the blue ocean strategy. I do plan on entering an existing market in a known product category, but with a unique value proposition. Thanks for the feedback, Coach.
Very good. Good, great idea. So what does it take to be ready? You know, so a number of people are saying that they are almost ready, or they're willing to be ready. And what does it take? The first step to think about the resources and knowing your business already has, considering the following. Think about your expectations. You know, try to figure out, you know, what can I expect from exporting? How can I export in a manner that will be a long-term process? So I want you to start to say, because very often people embark upon things, but they don't have persistence. So I would say, what does it take to be ready? That you make a commitment, a multi-year commitment, that I am going into this thing and I'm not giving up. I will face obstacles, but I will conquer them, and I'm going in, I'm burning my ships. That you have clear expectations what you will get from exporting. That you have a clear objective, and I would like to suggest that you start small. I want to enter into 1 or 2 markets. I want to enter with 1 or 2 products, you know. Recently, I had this small business client, and she was telling me that she wants to buy UPC codes, and she wanted my guidance in buying UPC codes. So UPC codes are not a cheap investment, but she wanted to buy 6. And I said, but why you jump from 0 to 6? Why don't you buy 1 UPC code? And, you know, it took me a while discussing it with her until she eventually agreed to buy 1 and venture off with 1 product into the export market. Because it is very possible that she goes in and buys 6 UPC codes, and therefore she's producing 6 sets of labels. She runs the risk that probably 4 of the products wouldn't work. And she has already invested in labels, and she's already invested in UPC codes. And therefore, my advice very often is to be cautious and don't run before you can crawl. Take your time. Start small with 1 product, 1 market, and then expand. If you're in a big territory, start with 1 outlet or 1 chain of outlets. So that, for example, I gave you the example of Advanced Home. Advanced Home entered into Puerto Rico, but they entered into Puerto Rico as part of the Unicoma expansion, which is Courts. So they sell mattresses to Courts Trinidad, which is part of the Unicoma chain that spans the entire Caribbean basin on the mainland and in the islands. It's a huge group. And therefore, they were able to leverage their association with courts in Trinidad to be able to enter into Dominican Republic, and they were entering only with courts. And even further, only in 2 courts outlets in Dominican Republic. So what are they hoping to do? By going in only with courts and by going in with only 2 products, they are thinking of learning and growing gradually. Now you can say, okay, I go into Dominican Republic and I want to go into about 5 different supermarkets. And I go in all over the place. I come in there with about a range of products. I'm making about 5 different products. And you find that you're therefore spending a lot of money trying to produce promotional material from 5 different outlets, trying to produce products and labeling for 5 different products, where it would have been better to go with 1 product in 1 outlet. Be realistic. Don't jump in and therefore spend so much that when it does not pan out, that you lose faith or you lose hope. Start small and grow. It would require repeat investment to get it to happen. And be open to new ways of doing business. And therefore be willing, and this is a hard thing to say, be willing to understand that at the beginning you may lose money. You may not make a profit. I remember a famous anecdote that I was told by someone. I worked with Heineken for many years. And someone told me that Mr. Heineken exported at a loss into the United States for 90 years. For 90 years, Heineken exported beer from Europe into the United States at a loss. For 90 years. That means that the European market was subsidizing the exports of Heineken beer into the United States for 90 years. Today, the United States is the biggest single market for Heineken beer in the world. Now, what can we take from that lesson? Heineken sales in the United States exceeds any single territory, including the Netherlands, where Heineken is made, where is the home of Heineken. More Heineken is sold in the United States than anywhere else. But it took them 90 years to turn a profit. So that's the kind of mentality. Now, I'm not going to tell you to try for your son or your grandson to be going to do that. But one of the things that I want to tell you is that that is the mentality that you have to approach exporting with. And finally, an understanding of what is required to succeed in the international marketplace. That is the kind of mentality that you have to have. So we want to have another polling question, and then we will chat a little bit about it. So polling question number 3. Right. What would be your greatest challenge venturing into exporting? And there are 5 options. What will be your greatest challenge? We've spoken a lot. What do you think will be your greatest challenge venturing into exporting? Okay, so let's look at the results. We saw limiting so limited human resource 5%, 23% insufficient funding and financing, 9% sourcing of sufficient raw materials, 59% limited knowledge of the exporting process and legal requirements, and 5% production capacity. Now, that's great. I feel very good about that because export TT comes in with the 59%. So that export TT can provide the knowledge and the process and the legal requirements to be able to help you. So therefore, if 59% of the persons are saying they need the knowledge, I think that they have come to the right place. Tanika, what do you think?
I think the same thing as well, Coach.
Yes,
They're in the right session.
what is it?
They are in the right session.
They're in the right session because I think Export TT can provide you with that. But let's just talk about the others as well. I think limited human resources is something that is serious. Noting that you have to be able to have the capacity in human resources to go into different markets. When you reach a particular size, you may have to hire people, but probably you have to recognize that even if you're adding on another person within the organization to help in the local and export, but you have to recognize that going off into export is going to stretch your existing resources. 23% said insufficient funding and finance. I think that is very true. That you have to recognize that you have to be able to allocate funds for exporting. Exporting is not an immediate profitable initiative. So you have to be saying, I am investing. I'm not expecting you to be like Heineken, but I am investing in exporting. And therefore, notice that the word is investing. The word is not expensing, but the word is investing for the long term. And the lesson from Heineken is that because they took a decision to invest into the United States market for 90 years at a loss, they were able eventually to become the biggest market. So it also tells me, take your time and choose markets where you can have a long-term presence. You don't want to go into a market and therefore after a year or two, you're going to be closed out. You want to go into a market where you believe you're investing in this market because you can foresee 10 years down the line, you will still be in that market. Sourcing of sufficient raw materials for 9%. That's also important. You can import raw materials or you can get raw materials on the local market. I would like to suggest that as a small entrepreneur starting off, try to do everything for yourself and see whether or not you can get other people who could be sourcing the raw materials, and therefore you can have access to the raw materials. And production capacity is very one. I'm glad it's only 5%, but it is something to consider. That when you're entering off into exporting, you want to make sure that you can meet the demand. I remember some time ago in one of our sessions, there was this lady who started to export garments to Antigua and St. Kitts. And when the orders came in, it started to upset her local production on the local market. And I remember her telling me in the training session that, you know something, coach, this is turning out to be a disaster for me. So I asked her why. And she said, because, I'm telling you why, because I have tied up all my resources in capacity and in human resources to produce for Antigua and St. Kitts. I don't have enough capacity to produce in the local market. And in St. Kitts and Antigua, I am making a 10% profit, whereas in the local market, I am making a 40% profit. So therefore, it now turned out to be very difficult for her. So she was saying, you know, this exporting thing, and eventually she dropped it. She stopped exporting because she said she had enough business in the local market. Now, that was some years ago. I would like to know from her, what is the situation now? Is it still that way? And then also that because she dropped out of Antigua and St. Kitts and that opportunity, she was not able to develop further. But this is important. If you're going to be exporting and you depend a lot upon your local market to make the product, to make the profits, you want to ensure that you have enough capacity to meet your local orders and that the export orders is an addition production. So that's something to remember. Okay, so any questions before I move on to the next slide? We are going great on time. We're going perfect on time. So I want to tap myself on my shoulders because we are going good on time. We're just on time. So I could entertain any questions before we talk about getting started. Any comments or questions about all the background that we've spoken about on export before we start on moving forward to say, having made a decision, what does it require to start? Any comments before we go into that?
Not really per se. Ade had a question. He's asking if the Ministry of Labor and SMEs, if there'll be a good place to find suitable human resources for production.
I'm glad he brought up that question because it reminded me of something that Maria Padilla, who is in charge of training at Export TT, mentioned to me that for the first time in the new budget, they are going to have a significant funding. I don't know, I'm not going to define significant, but they're going to have a significant funding for improving the capacity of tier 3 companies. That therefore they are going into a significant capacity building for small and micro businesses to get into exporting. And therefore, yes, about the Ministry of Labor, but more so Export TT. So I don't know if Tanika want to make a comment upon that, but I was told by Tanika's supervisor, that a manager, that there is going to be a significant Export TT initiative in trying to get tier 3 companies up and running in building their export capacity. So just to bear that in mind.
Yes, well, it is something that we are in discussions with the ministry on. So it's a subject that I would not want to mention much on, but yes, you can look out for that. It is something that's in the works, and more than likely it will take form in a nice little program for potential / new exporters.
Good. All right. Okay. So if you have made a decision to enter into exporting after you've heard all of the opportunities, the benefits, and the challenges, and you have now said, well, yes, I've heard what Coach said. I've borne all of that in my mind, and I really want to still get involved in exporting. And I therefore want to say, these are the 3 areas. Now, there are other areas, but I use 3 major categories of issues that we have to deal with. 1, the human resources. We need to have sufficient people to be able to export. We can't use the same team that is maybe stretched on the local market to be able to export. So you want to be able to recognize that you have to have the human resource capacity to be able to export. You also want to be able to have senior management committed to exporting. Some of you, and we've met a lot of persons who come to Export TT. They are not the owners of the company, they work with the company, and they have a lot of great ideas. They have a lot of great hopes and initiatives, but they don't have a commitment from management. So you want to be able to say that if you want to have exporting, you have to have a commitment by senior management. Senior management has to say, we are committed to this. We want to make it happen. You also want to have people who are culturally sensitive. You're not going to buff up the foreigners. And therefore, inevitable, foreigners think and act differently to locals. And you have to bear that in mind. Coming back to Advanced Forum and their initiative into Dominican Republic, I was surprised. They hired a gentleman from I think it was Costa Rica, and they used him as the export rep for Dominican Republic. And he was commenting to me that he was having difficulty. Now, he's Latin, so we assumed that all Latins could understand each other. And he was having difficulty in communicating with the Dominican Republic people. And he's Latin, he's speaking Spanish as his first language. So you want to bear that in mind. You want to be culturally sensitive. You want to be able to understand the language barriers. Very often they may be thinking and operating in a particular way, and you have to be able to understand that and be patient and try to understand how they're thinking. You want to be able to have the financial and legal capacity. You want to be able to have enough money to invest in exporting. And again, Export TT, Exim Bank, some of the local commercial banks, I've been told NEDCO, all Agricultural Development Bank, are all gearing up from this last budget to make a team effort to get the exports going. But you have to be able to do a good plan and be able to understand what are the financial resources you would need. You have to find ways to reduce the financial risks of international trade. You have to be able to use insurance. You have to be able to get people to advise you on the legal and tax implications of exporting. And this is where Export TT comes in. This is where Tinika is an expert. You want to deal effectively with different monetary systems and ensure protection of your intellectual property. Again, I can't recommend Export TT enough to say that therefore we really have to have the ability to be prepared. So not only do we need the human resources, we need the financial and legal resources. You need the financial resources inside your company. And I think, I was speaking to someone at NEDCO recently, and she was telling me that NEDCO sees itself as a significant role in achieving the success that they hope to succeed, for us to move into a widespread exporting of products. Competitiveness, the third category. That you want to be able to be competitive. Now, let's go back to our long tail. The more you are in the red zone, in that line of products that are in the head, the more competitive on pricing you have to be. The more in this zone, the less competitive on pricing you have to be. So you have to bear that in mind. If it is you're going to produce products that have very little differentiation, you have to be very competitive on price and quality. I want to repeat that. If you're going to go in this area here, you have to be very competitive on price and quality. If you're going into this area here, you don't have to be as competitive. This is not to say that you could sell anything at any price, but people may be willing to pay a higher price and accept a lower quality because of your unique differentiation. So you want to bear that in mind. So you want to be able, this competitiveness thing, is a two-edged sword, so to speak. On the one hand, if it is you're very differentiated, you can probably have a variation. If you're very common, then you have to have a very good price. You have to have resources to do market research on the exportability of your product and service. And again, this is only after exhausting the services that Export TT can provide. Export TT can provide a lot of resources, so it's only after exhausting their services, then you have to go on. And yet you have to have proven sophisticated market entry methods. You have to be able, as the next slide comes up, you have to be able to enter into the market understanding that it is a chess game. This is not an easy thing, but you have to think it through. Entering into exporting, I like to think of it as like invading a territory. I like to use the metaphor of invasion. Not like a war invasion, but probably we could say, you know what is a good example that comes to mind? The coronavirus exporting. Look at how coronavirus, which is a very insignificant product, a virus, but look at the ability it has had to export itself throughout the entire world. Probably we can have, I don't know, probably that comes up for me to do our next training, exporting like the coronavirus. Probably this is a module that I should put together, and hopefully Export TT will hire me to offer the module exporting like the coronavirus. Is that a good idea? I think also if you're going off into exporting, you must have a real vision as to why you're going into exporting. Do you have a compelling mission and purpose for your business? And I don't think just making money is a compelling mission and vision and purpose. I think you have to have that you want to change the world. Earlier on, I shared with you a number of new things that are taking place in the world. If I could get back right here in this slide, number 8. We have new trade agreements. We have new sustainable physical environment and the Paris Agreement and the Pope Laudato Si. And we have new sustainable social dynamics. We have new technological revolution. So obviously, you can't just say that your business, you're going off into exporting so I could earn some more money. Yes, hopefully you will be earning some more money, but you want to be able, to have an ability to be able to move forward in that direction. We want to be able to have a real purpose. Why are you doing this? So therefore, I am in the business of training and development, and I have a real desire to train and develop the people of the Caribbean into exporting and into business success and into financial success. And therefore, that keeps me going when things may be drooping, and therefore I can go on. So I particularly want to emphasize this, that you want to make sure that you have a reason, an intangible reason, a desire, a compelling purpose, a mission as to why you're going off into exporting. So we're going into the polling question number 4. And let's see what polling question number 4 is. And in the meantime, does exporting fit into your mission and purpose? Excellent question. You know, do you have a something compelling? And let's see what the results will be. I am very interested in this. Does exporting fit into your mission and purpose? Okay. Should I give it a few more minutes? Out of 33 persons, yeah, give it a few more minutes. Okay, I can end. It seems like a runaway. Yes, it does. So you see there, yes is 90%. I would like to open up any questions or any comments, as you can tell me, you know, why do you say that exporting fits into your mission and purpose? Can anybody give me a very deep reason as why, you know, it will make such a big impact on their business and their mission and vision if they were to be exporting? Any comments? Tanika, anyone want to venture off and tell us about how their mission and purpose and the exporting fits in their mission and purpose?
In the chat at this moment, I'm seeing Mali, try purpose, mission, and vision is, or my purpose is to rebuild the Caribbean sustainably.
Excellent. Very good. I like that. So what is Marlene is her name?
Mali Kwamana.
Mali. What I like about that is that it is taking one of the concepts that we said that there is change. So we are seeing in here, I think is this slide, right? So her purpose matches one of the growing needs, and that's brilliant because she is rebuilding in a sustainable manner. And therefore, that's an opportunity. That's a big opportunity to building in a sustainable manner. So therefore, I like to say that my personal business would be education for all in my training and in eradication of poverty. So I am saying that by training in the export and in business and in financial services, I am trying to help achieve the UN Sustainable Goals by the eradication of poverty and education for all and zero unemployment. So I am working in this area here, and this Mali is working in this area here. Is anybody else? Any other comments?
Yes, Marcia, sharing our very selves with the rest of the region, also to reach diaspora with what is being developed here in Trinidad.
Very nice. I like that. Trying to meet the diaspora. And probably I will add on to that, trying to see how you can help the diaspora with one of these items. Can you help the diaspora in their eradication of poverty? Can you help the diaspora become more sustainable? Can you help the diaspora be more aware of the need to protect our physical environment? Can you, so what I'm suggesting, and I'm just suggesting, that you take your mission and you tie your mission into one of these 18 opportunities. Now, I'm not saying that these are the only 18 opportunities. Huh? There may be many more, but here I'm giving you 18 opportunities. And I will suggest to you to take your mission and your purpose and tie it back to one of these. Any other comments before we move on?
Alana, two more. So Alana is saying unemployment is a serious issue in our country, and we could provide employment opportunities for persons. Are they?
I like that. Very good. Excellent. Because this is something that the country. So when you have a mission like that, you can see how you can go to the government and say, well, look, I am trying to help you. I'm trying to reduce unemployment. How can I get your help? And that's a very good mission. Anybody else?
Ade's purpose is to empower youth and women through the development of sustainable products while spreading the joys of Caribbean culture through the world.
Excellent, excellent. I like that. Very good. So Ade has hit on about 2 or 3 of the 18 headings that I gave. Very good. Excellent.
We have a few more to go through. Margaret is saying taking a beneficial product from the past, bringing it to the present to benefit people now and in the future.
Very good.
Karen, my mission is to make agriculture products more affordable and sustainable. May not be able to do with all products, but at least those that I produce.
Very good.
Lakshman Ranrup, to revolutionize the way people build metalworking products.
Very good. Very good.
Tamika, we have been passionately sharing our love for creativity for over 10 years and are aiming at expanding it regionally to create sustainable income source for predominantly women.
Excellent. Very good. You know, that last comment there reminded me of something. Recently, Disney said that one of their single greatest needs going forward is creativity. And that was from Disney. And Microsoft said one of the greatest skill needs that they have identified is designing solutions in particular. And I took down those 2 things in my notes myself for my own business. Creativity, Disney, and designing solutions from Microsoft. And what Microsoft was saying is that the ability to recognize a problem and design a solution that can solve the problem is probably going to be in the top 3. Microsoft says it's going to be in the top 3 skills needed in the world going forward. So what does that mean? I have to see personally, how can my product touch on that? How can I be more creative? What can I do to be more creative in my efforts? And 2, how can I identify problems and come up with training modules that solves problems? Then I'm fitting into Microsoft skills. So those 2 skills, and look at the 2 companies, Disney and Microsoft, 2 of the biggest companies in the world. The ability to be creative and the ability to identify a problem and design and execute a solution. Yes, Tanika, you have something else to say?
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
All right, okay, good. So let's move on. This is just to give you a little example. Let me see how I'm going for time. Yeah, we're going good for time. What does it take for a product to move along exporting? And therefore, on the left-hand side of this screen, you would see some common export documents, some transportation documents, export compliance documents, certificate of origin and certificates of a specific good documents, other export-related documents, and services. So you can see on an earlier slide, I mentioned to you that exporting requires considerable paperwork. And this is exactly it. This slide shows us that. So don't get flustered because of the paperwork. Exporting requires paperwork. So therefore, if we just look on the right-hand side of any one of those on the left-hand side, so common export documents. So you're talking about a commercial invoice, an export packing list, a pro forma invoice. That's 3 set of documents right there just for the common exporting documents. Then you go into transportation documents, an airway bill, a bill of lading, a shipper's export declaration, more documents. So therefore, just between there, you're talking about at least 5 documents. Export compliance documents. For some products, you need an export license. So you have to be able to get that. For some products, you need a certificate of origin and certification for specific goods. So therefore, you want to export and say this is a CARICOM product, you have to get a certificate of origin. That's the next document. Other export-related documents, you want to get an inspection certificate, because for some food and beverages, your premises, your plant, your commercial kitchen has to have an inspection certificate. So again, more documentation. You want to have an insurance certificate. You want to have weight certificates. So you want to have UPC codes. So you want to know that do not get flustered and do not get exasperated. That is why earlier on I said to go into exports, you have to have a paradigm shift. You have to change your way of thinking. You have to say that this is a new venture that I'm going on. You know, what is it that Bilbo Baggins said when he was leaving in The Hobbit? He says, be careful, Frodo, when you step out onto the road, because you don't know where your feet will carry you. And this is so true in exporting. When you venture off into export, you don't know where it's going to carry you. You don't know where you're going to end up. Who knows? Probably you'll be the next Amazon here. So you want to be able to have a mission that will be able to endure the struggles of going through all of this paperwork. And you may need for services a CSME certificate, that you are able to be CSME certified so that you can go to another CARICOM country and work. So that therefore I know that, well, COVID has changed up a lot of things, but there was a time that a number of people were doing different works in hotel business. So therefore you can have a team of cleaners and you can go probably to Barbados, or you can go somewhere else. And therefore that's another sort of documentation. So you want to remember that exporting requires documentation. So don't get flustered, don't get exasperated, and that's why you need a mission that will take you through these tough times. The other thing I wanted to talk about, mention quickly, is the choice of entry strategy. And I want to refer back to one of our earlier slides. Now remember what we said. Earlier on, we said that there are opportunities for export for every type of company. And in this slide, we saw that there was a tier 3 company, a tier 2 company, and a tier 1 company. Tier 3 are the small and micro businesses. Tier 2 are those companies that have already started to export and now want to expand upon their exports. And tier 1 is companies that are exporting aggressively already and they want to build on that. But just as there are different types of companies and there are different ways for each one to export, it's the same way with different types of entry strategies. You want to be able that there is an entry strategy for every market. I want to be as bold as that. There is an entry strategy for every export market. but it's not the same entry strategy. You want to be able to understand that there are a number of ways to enter a market. You can export, you can license, you can franchise, you can contract manufacture, you could do joint ventures, you could do direct investments. And in this slide here, you saw here, towards this end is high risk, high investment, high control. And towards this end is low risk, low investment, low control. But note that there is a strategy for every market. When I worked with SM Jalil and Carib Brewery, each CARICOM country, we had a different strategy. Some of them we would export, some of them will be licensed, some of them will contract manufacture, some of them we private label, but every single market has a strategy that is appropriate for that market. So when you thinking about entering into a market, don't think that there is only one strategy. And even in a particular market, one may have to adapt your strategy going forward because competition may not like it. So I remember a good story I normally tell is SM Jalil going into Martinique with Chubby. When we first tried to go to the big distributors, they would not accept it. They said this product was not appropriate for the market. So what we had to do is that I went with a very small importer, and we had to help him financially, but he took the product into the market. So the big people didn't want to take it, but we got a small person to take it. Now we knew that a small person did not have the finances, but we were thinking that he was able to get us into the market. And in Martinique, these French people are a lot more social than in the Caribbean, other Caribbean markets. So they have specific allocation in supermarkets for only small businesses. So he was able, because he was a small business, to get us into the big supermarkets. And after we got into the big supermarkets, we attracted the attention of those big distributors who had refused us at first, then came to us and then started to say, we want to import your product. So notice the strategy had to be different. So we went for a small guy, and then eventually we had to give up the small guy. Now, some people may find that mercenary, but this is business, and the small guy was rewarded for his efforts. And then we appointed a larger distributor to be our distributor. After we got this large distributor, we attracted the attention of a soft drink manufacturer in Martinique. And he said he would like to contract manufacture the product for us in Martinique. So look at the different strategies: a small importer, then a large distributor, then a contract manufacturer. And the contract manufacturer was manufacturing the product to sell to the large distributor to sell in Martinique. Now, notice it reached a point where we were not exporting any physical product anymore. We were then exporting concentrate, and the concentrate will be used by the contract manufacturer, who would make the product and sell to the distributor, who would sell to the retailer. And then eventually, they did not want to buy our input, our concentrate anymore, and they said they will develop their own concentrate and pay us a royalty. So therefore, that product, look at what happened in Martinique with Chubby. We moved from a small importer to a large importer to a contract manufacturer to a royalty agreement. We went through 1, 2, 3, 4 stages. So you have to remember, when we speak about exporting, one size does not fit all. we want to be able to adjust, and we have to say which is the better method for this particular market. So when you encounter a market, be it Martinique or Guadeloupe or Barbados or Jamaica or Puerto Rico, notice and say, what is the unique way to enter this particular market? Remember the story I gave you about Advanced Foam? Advanced Foam built upon their relationship with courts in Trinidad to get Unicoma branch 1 or 2 branches in Dominican Republic to import their mattresses from Trinidad because they had a relationship with courts in Trinidad. That was a method. So for every single market, there is a unique method for accessing that market. One size does not fit all. And you have to approach each market and say, well, what is the way I am going to go into this market? What is the unique things that I must be doing to get into this market? So that I have there in the slide, many potential exporters seem to only consider a few export of a physical product and not a wider range of opportunities. So look at these, I just give you, and this in no way exhausts the opportunities or strategies to enter. These are just some strategies. But before we go that, I just want to get comments on this. What do you think about, first of all, the SM Jalil experience and the Advanced Foam experience, or probably one of your experiences of getting your products into a particular market? Comments? Yes.
Okay, so regarding the experiences, Ade is asking, how good was the royalty deal? Was their branding maintained, or did it have to change?
No, they had to change. They eventually were paying a royalty on the design of the bottle and the soft drink using their own brand. But we had to go to that stage because once you attract certain amount of competitive pressure, it was an easier way for us because we were getting income with little cost. Now, granted, we were not exporting our products, but all the royalty that we were getting went straight to the bottom line. So, yes and no. Sometimes, in the case with SM Jalil and Chubby in Martinique and Guadeloupe, sometimes you have to forego because of competitive pressures. But each market is unique and each stage of the market is unique. Anybody else? Any other comments?
No other comments in the chat box, but I'll just take this time to ask participants to take the opportunity now to ask any questions, relay any comments that they have at this time of the session.
Yeah. What is their thoughts of the strategy of, and I'll probably make another one, is the same strategy that Advanced Foam used, that another company I knew used with Massy Stores. Massy Stores has 2 branches of mega stores in Guyana. And one of my clients who were dealing with able to sell into Massy Stores in Trinidad was able to leverage that and get Massy Stores Guyana 2 branches to take their products. So again, that was a unique strategy. What the company was using was building on the relationship with Massy Stores in Trinidad to be able to access the market in Guyana. So what it teaches me is that there are many different ways. There are many different ways. Recently, I do training for a company, for Massey Group in Guyana. And recently, one of my former students at Massey, who has left and gone home, she has a baby, and then she wanted to develop an online at-home business, and therefore asked me to develop a training course for a particular initiative she wanted to make. And therefore, I was able to gain a course to this person because of my business with Massey Guyana. So what that tells you is that there are opportunities, and sometimes these opportunities are right in front of you. But do not despair. What you have to do is to think through, how can I enter this particular market? What is the particular unique way to go after this market? And don't limit yourself to say that, there is only one way. There's only one way. Okay. Any comments? Anybody want to comment on that? What do you think about the idea?
Before you move ahead, I missed a question from Marianne.
Yes.
She asked, how are the forms factored into online stores like ShopCarib? So she's talking about the export-related forms. She's saying, as far as I am aware, vendors are not asked to complete those forms.
Yes. Under a certain size of volume, you are treated as a small vendor. Now, I was told, and probably Export Titi could verify me. I don't have the export. I don't have the export. But I was told by Caribbean Airlines, this is before the pandemic and the shutdown of the plane routes, that if one was selling as a vendor to a vendor, that you can forego a lot of paperwork, which means that you're operating as a sole trader and you're exporting to a sole trader. A lot of the paperwork that is required as a company to a company is not immediately triggered. And therefore, one has to explore that as well. Because Caribbean Airlines was saying they had attended one of our previous training sessions, and they were saying to us that if in case you may have a business, but you may want to enter into the US market, and you're a micro business, and it may worth your while to export as a sole trader to a next sole trader over there, who may be your representative, and who could buy the product and accumulate the product and sell to a bigger distributor. So that comes back to the same idea that I'm saying, that one has to think through, legally, of course, not illegally. One has to think through legally, how am I going to enter this particular market? And what Carl was telling us before the pandemic was that they were targeting the export of cargo globally as a strategic development initiative for themselves. And therefore, I remember the gentleman using the example. He said, we will be exporting from a pin to a horse, and to be able to get into this exporting business. Another example that he gave that came to mind, again, this is pre-COVID, and I wonder how that will pan out. Well, probably it's not going to pan out too well for this Christmas. But prior to this Christmas, apparently there was a growing demand amongst Caribbean hotels for Trinidad poinsettias for Christmas. And Caribbean Airlines was doing a brisk trade, that persons were exporting Trinidad grown poinsettias, poinsettias, the plant, the leaves that turn red. They were exporting Trinidad grown poinsettias into other Caribbean islands as a decorative plant for their hotels. I found this was very ingenious. And actually, it was Caribbean Airlines that was piloting that scheme. So one has to look at that opportunity as well. That, probably you can also look and see what are the shippers doing that you can gain, that you can actually piggyback on them. Because I can't remember the name of the company, I think there's something containers, but they said they were a shipper of what they will call the barrel trade. And they were doing the barrel trade from New York into Trinidad. Well, those of you who don't know the barrel trade, these are like big cardboard barrels that families will stuff sneakers and jerseys and things that they bought in New York, and they would ship down a barrel to a person in Trinidad. And because it was done like that, the shipping cost was much reduced, the paperwork was much reduced, and therefore it was facilitating that type of trade. This particular company, their name slipped me now, I think it has the word container inside, were actually trying to encourage, again, this is pre-pandemic, the reverse trade. So that they were saying, why do we always have to get barrels from New York to Trinidad? Why can't we develop a trade where a Trinidadian sole trader can pack a barrel, ship it to New York, and therefore use that in a particular way that would not have to require the paperwork? So thanks for that question. I think it is a big opportunity, and especially with the United States, you can look at that to see whether or not you can trade as a sole trader. Don't be too quick to move into an established corporation or legal company when there may be opportunities at a sole trader level, and then you can build up to using your company if there are advantages of going it that way. Any other comments? Any other comments about that?
Not at this time, Coach.
Okay, so I want to go on to this slide. Just as I said, this is some strategies. They're not all the strategies, as some of the strategies, and there are advantages and risks involved. So yes, you can do direct export distribution. Because the advantages is if you're exporting your own products physically into another market, you can have a long-term presence in that market. You can have large sales, but there could be risks you may not have enough funds to support the effective rollout. You may need advertising money, you may need promotional money, you may need slotting fees. So you want to recognize that, yes, direct export distribution is a valid, successful entry strategy, but it has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. So you have to wait. You have to wait and see whether or not it makes sense for you. Overseas target market manufacture. This is where, like for example, SM Jalil got the company to manufacture the product under contract manufacturing in the market for them. So there are advantages. You avoid customs and tariffs, and you're now viewed as local because you're made locally under license. But you run the risk, as SM Jalil found out. If they say they could make this product for you, they could make it for themselves too. So they begin to make their own product. So if you're going to do that way, You have to know that you're going to have to invest money in your brand, that people don't want just an imitation product, but they want your brand. Private label. No marketing investment. Therefore, you are making for a company in the foreign market under their label. You are making it locally, but you are not using your brand, you are using their brand. And it, again, I want to repeat, it may not be the only strategy. So let us assume you have a capacity of 100 items. You are producing, you are able to sell 50 of those items on the local market. So you have an excess capacity of 50. You are able to export 25 of that 50, but you have capacity for a further 25. Instead of letting your equipment lie idle, you may decide to make that extra 25 for someone under their brand. So now you have a local market for your product, you have an export market for your product, but you're also producing a similar product under private label for another distributor. You can give a license. Eventually, SMG ended up with a licensing agreement with the company in Martinique. So there's no marketing investment, no local commitment, but again, the person is using the licensing and therefore there's risk. They can steal your technology or steal your idea. So again, you have to be able to say, well, okay, can I put a patent on this? Can I copyright it? Can I make sure that I can manage the copyright so that I can get my due? You can purchase into an overseas establishment. So let us assume, let's go back to Chimère. Chimère eventually opened up their own Chimère branch in Toronto, Canada. That's also an interesting story because I was told by Cheryl Bowles that the Chimère branch in Canada actually has a different product line than the Trinidad Chimère. The Trinidad Chimère caters mainly to women and their beautification. Apparently, a big market for Chimère in Toronto, Canada is baby showers. Imagine that, the baby showers. Apparently, a popular pastime is if you're having a baby birthday party, you could have a baby birthday party at a Chimère and all the babies get a spa treatment. When I was told it, I was amazed myself. But apparently, the babies get a massage using cocoa butter oil and tropical materials, and the babies are therefore massaged with these tropical oils. So notice here, in their most popular product in Toronto differed very significantly from their product that they were selling in Trinidad. Amazing. But again, it comes back to that. You may want to purchase with your brand an overseas operation. So let us assume you were thinking about producing, you made a very exotic Trinidad ice cream using Trinidad products, using pomegranate or using pomerac, a nice pomerac ice cream. And then you want to export your ice cream into Canada and the United States. The problem is that because of their large milk operation in Canada and the US, they will require you to use their milks. So what you're going to be doing is importing milk from Canada or the States, bringing it to Trinidad, getting it licensed that you're using their milks to make your ice cream to ship it back to the States and Canada. That's a long process. It may be that you could invest in a small ice cream manufacturer in Canada, and therefore get that company to make your ice cream in Canada. So you export your Pomerac puree, your nice Pomerac puree, you export it to Canada, and then you get the Canadian ice cream maker to make your product using your Pomerac puree under your brand, and they distribute it. Fantastic idea. I might do that myself. So that you want to be able to see that there are opportunities, there are different ways of doing it. Establishing an overseas company like what Shamir did, that you open a branch, or like Movie Town, open a branch in Guyana, and or you only selling to one large client, that you get one client, let's say like Advanced Home, and say, well, okay, I'm only going to deal with Unicoma, and I'm going to sell only to Unicoma throughout the entire Caribbean. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my entire production and marketing system to only serve the Unicoma company. Unicoma is a massive company of mattresses throughout the Caribbean. They have huge distribution in Costa Rica, in Honduras, in Guatemala, in El Salvador, in Panama, in Dominican Republic. So throughout the Caribbean islands. So just selling to Unicoma might be big enough for your company to get very big. Or you may decide, I only going to sell to Massy stores. They have Massy stores in Barbados, they have Massy stores in Trinidad, they have Massy stores in Guyana. You may therefore say, well, I'm just going to sell to Massy stores. And I don't know, they may have Massy stores in other islands besides Barbados and Guyana. I'm not too up to date with that. But again, that is an opportunity. So again, low upfront investment, and lose other, but the downside is that you lose other opportunities in the target market. Because if you're only going to go with Massy stores, therefore you can't sell to another branch. So you're going to have to stay with Massy stores. But again, what you recognize from these things is that every single strategy has advantages and disadvantages. And you have to operate to suit. How do you think it will suit you to be able to go after that market? Okay, questions. How are we going for questions? What do you think about all of those opportunities and ideas? One at a time. No one has any questions or any ideas that come up to their mind with all of these new ideas about making ice cream, Pomerac ice cream in Canada or something like that? Tanika, any comments? Tanika has disappeared. Let me just go through move down the slides.
Hey, Coach, no, there are no other questions at this time.
All right, okay, no other questions.
We had a comment from Alana saying, I think I need expert advice on choosing a strategy for my product. Oh yes, and I missed one from Karen. Karen is asking, is it that when supplying one company, a contract is involved?
And Brent has his hand raised as well. Let's go to the first question. What was the first question, Maria?
Alana is saying, I think I need expert advice on choosing a strategy for my product.
Okay, yeah, I think so. I think that's a good idea, a good approach. And I think Export TT is the ideal institution for you to go to. That they can help you with each market to do the initial research, and then you can also see whether or not you can think of what is the strategy, or you can email me and we can see whether or not I can help you. But yes, I want to just stress on that. There are opportunities. You should seek professional advice wherever possible, because there are ways in doing things that you may not be thinking of. The second question is that, do you have to have an agreement? I think agreements are not necessarily good things, huh? But it may be relationships. Because let's say Advanced Foam, what it is not so much an agreement, but in getting to know the people. So if it is, you say that you want to deal with Unicoma throughout the entire Caribbean basin, more than an agreement, because Unicoma may not want to enter into agreement with, even though Advanced Foam is large for Trinidad, is microscopic for Unicoma. So they may not want to go into an agreement, but you can build up relationships so that you can find out who is the purchaser in Trinidad, because they would have purchasing meetings amongst purchasers of all the Unicomas. They will have their workshops on purchasing. And if you get to know a purchaser, that purchaser can put you in contact with other purchasers. So I would say more than an agreement, more so as a relationship, that you want to forge relationships with people who within a company, because when you're in a company, so that for example, I have been selling training to Guyana, Marcy, Guyana, alone, Marcy, Guyana, for over 10 years. But I have developed a relationship, so I get that business continuously. So I would say a relationship is more, I have no agreement, but I have a relationship. A relationship is more important than an agreement. Brent has his hands up.
Yes, thank you again. Now, in terms of the entry strategies, I am just trying to understand the private label one again. You said that is when you have excess and the purchaser uses their label to market the product.
Yes.
Right? But the risk that you have there is actually my fear that I have of going with that strategy, which is the opportunity that is placed in front of me now. Right? So this actually helping with getting clarification as to, is that the strategy I want to use?
Yes, because
right?
they will eventually make an alternative arrangements for manufacture your product.
Yeah, so that is scary, although that is the area that creating the opportunity for the export.
Yes,
right?
But it may be, Brent, that you use that money that you make from private label to launch your product. So it may work backwards engineering. Right?
Okay.
So therefore, somebody tells you, I want to import your product. I want to import your product under my brand label. And you say, okay, but you're making $10, let's say you're making $10 profit per item.
Yes.
And you use that $10 to market your brand. And therefore you tell them, I am agreeing to do a private label, but I am reserving the right to also sell my product in your market.
Okay.
And therefore you're using their profits, the profits you're making from their private label to build your brand. So
yes.
It is not, you see, in this thing, one has to be shrewd, huh? You have to be shrewd. And it may be your way of doing that. So that, for example, let's say take Advanced Foam. Advanced Foam has brands of their own, but they also have a brand for Quartz. And therefore, Quartz has its own brand that Advanced Foam makes for them. I think it is called Sleepy Time. I may be wrong, but let's assume it is Sleepy Time. So they make Sleepy Time for this market in Trinidad. And then all of a sudden, Unicoma, Dominican Republic, says, yes, I want you to make Sleepy Time for me, and we will buy it in Dominican Republic. And they may say, okay, I will make Sleepy Time for the Dominican Republic, but I also would like to sell my own label brand alongside it. I'm going to make Sleepy Time for you, but I am going to make Trini Comfort, and I want you to sell Trini Comfort along with Sleepy Time. Now, more than likely, Unicoma will do that. They will agree. They will say, okay, and they may be ordering 80 units of Sleepy Time and 20 units of Trini Comfort. But what you have succeeded in doing is piggybacking Trini Comfort on Sleepy Time. So don't think it is a 100% lose-lose. It may be that you're using it to piggyback onto your product. Now, I know that that's what Advanced Foam is doing. Now, it may take a while because all along, Courts, Unicoma, is they want to push Sleepy Time. But if you're making Sleepy Time and you know what are the characteristics of Sleepy Time, because for example, in a mattress can either be firm, or it could be yielding, or it could be soft, or it could be have back support. So if you know that there is a certain characteristics of Sleepy Time, you could come up with a Trini Comfort that does not compete directly with Sleepy Time, but complements Sleepy Time. So therefore, you may find that not all people like a hard mattress. Some people like a yielding mattress, but not all people like a yielding mattress. Some people like a firm mattress. So you may decide, I know what I'm making for Sleepy Time in Courts in Dominican Republic. I know what they're using, but I can make a product that's somewhat different for them and get them to also agree. So when you're negotiating with them, with your private label person, you go to them and you say, look, I'm agreeing to make this private label for you, but in return, would you mind selling my line of products as well? Now, it may be that your line will be 10% or 20% and their private label is 80% or 90%. But that doesn't matter. You have gotten your product into the market. And the profit that you're making from the 80% sale, you use that to support your 10% profit, your 10% product. So you get your product into the market. What it requires for you to tinker with specifications. And you may be surprised, in almost every single product category, you can twist it. You can make the curry a little spicier. You could make it a little hotter. You make it a little cooler. But you already have a different brand and you have your brand in the market. So let us assume you decide to go into Netherlands with a curry. And Netherlands tells you, look, this is the way curries are made. And I want you to make a curry for me under my brand name for the Netherlands. And you say, okay, I'm going to make my curry for you. I'm going to make your curry at your specs. But now you learn from their specs and you realize how their curry is supposed to taste. And you were part of your negotiation said, but I would like you to take 10% of your order of my product. It's not the same, it's a little different. I have a little more pepper sauce, or I have a little more jeera or something like that in my curry. And I have my brand name. And they may be open to that. if you say with 10%, they will say, well, yeah, okay, no problem. Because in their interest, they would see that it's probably an initiative because they get an extra variety. And also they get the 80% product. And also you also gain by getting a toehold for your product. And who knows, your variety over a period of time will attract a market. One of the things I like to think is that there is a market for every single variety, the long tail, but you have to fit into the category. So do not, in any one of these entry strategies, do not eliminate them. Look at them and see which entry strategy, or how can I use multiple entry strategies, or how can I tweak this entry strategy to be beneficial to me. So it requires a certain amount of adaptation. Good. Anybody else? Maria, anybody else? Any other comments?
No other comments at this time, Coach.
Oh, Tinika, you are back with us. Thank you. All right. Okay. So, Tinika, we had just had 2 comments. One person said that they may need some expert advice on entry strategies, and I recommended Export TT. Brent also had, saying that he's now seeing that there are risks in almost every entry strategy. And I'm saying, yes, there are advantages and there are risks, and you have to be able to use them. And then somebody had asked about whether or not you need an agreement if you need one big company. And I was saying that it's not so much an agreement as a relationship. Very often people like to think that exporting is about agreements. Actually, exporting is about relationships. So you want to build relationships. Okay, source of affordable guides. Let me see how we're going for time. Great, we're going for exact on time. Again, you want to be able to see that. I want to first of all say Export TT is a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the export market. And there are a number of persons who ladder with Export TT over a period of time. And I want you to think of today's session as just the lowest rung on that ladder. Export TT can provide you with a lot of good advice, and they have what I would like to suggest to you, that you register with Export TT and you climb the rungs of their ladder until you become very adept at exporting. There's a SMEtoolkit.org. I think Republic Bank uses it on their website now. It's a good toolkit to go and look at. It tells you a lot of good advice for SMEs, which is small and medium enterprises. So I would like to encourage you. They have a lot of nice software to help you build business plans and planning tools and software that helps you with those things. I want to suggest that you also get in touch with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because you have a network of embassies, and that you could use your embassies, the Trinidad embassies in foreign markets, to your benefit. You want to be able to talk to the Ministry of Trade, because Ministry of Trade can help you with a lot of information and permits. You want to speak with Exim Bank to help you with trade financing and the facilities they offer. You want to be able to talk to TTME for their advice and guidance, because what I realized is that both TTME and the Chamber of Commerce, they have both started small business categories within their companies. Once there was a time when Chamber of Commerce was only for the big guns, but now what they have is a small guns category. So they are willing to help. TTME as well. I was speaking to one of the directors at TTME recently, and he was saying that he laments the fact that not many small businesses are going into manufacturing. And he was telling me that, in fact, he believes manufacturing is easier than importing from China. And he was telling me, therefore, that he believes that the benefits of going into manufacturing is significant. And he is a director at TTMA. So I would like to suggest to you also that TTMA can be a source of advice to help you. So these, again, these are some guides and mentors. They're not exhaustive. I also have people that I also consult with as well. So I am also a guide and mentor. But I want to advise and recommend highly Export TT. And Export TT has over the years developed a ladder to take companies all the way to exporting. So I want to encourage you to register with Export TT and follow through with their programs. I also want to suggest to you that through Export TT, you have all the expertise that you need, that you can make the transition. And I want to reiterate something that Maria, who came on just now, told me at the beginning of the workshop, that she wants to suggest that they have earmarked a major development capacity building initiative for small and micro tier 3 companies this year. I also want to recommend NEDCO, because someone at NEDCO has also told me that they have a significant program for small and micro companies as well for financing. So I think, again, I want to reiterate that we live in difficult, challenging times, but these difficult, challenging times can also be opportunity times. Don't only look at it through the negative lens. These could be opportunities that are being released that was never there before. And now you have the opportunity, you could go for it. Okay, so I have been speaking for the better part of 2 hours and 30 minutes, 33 minutes. And I'm exactly on time. And I would like now to invite a success story of someone who I remember started in one of my training sessions too, many moons ago, and now has moved from being a tentative entrepreneur with an idea to an established exporter and a successful exporter at that. I am so proud of Twigs Naturals. So I would like to turn over the opportunity for Nigel to come on and tell us something of the success story that Twigs Natural has made, because they were once like many of you, and move on. So Tanika, can you help me? I'm going to stop my share, I think. I don't know. Do you need me to stop my share or leave my share going up? Is Nigel going to use his share, or how are we going to operate?
He's sharing now, so he's on, he can hear, you can take the floor now.
So you want to stop my share, Nigel?
Yeah, sure. Yes, please.
Okay, good.
Morning, everyone. So let me share mine. And I'm doing this one here, share. All right, I hope everyone can see. Now, my approach to presentation is a little bit different. I'm gonna give you guys, for those who are not aware of Twigs Naturals, the brand, a quick overview, and then dive into our experience. First of all, I don't want to consider myself or Twigs Naturals typically a success story. I would say we are on the journey, and we've reached to the point where we have gotten a few milestones, a few breakthroughs, and we are very, very grateful. Just the opportunity to share this opportunity, the opportunity to share what we've learned along the way is really humbling, and I am really grateful for that as well. The way I understand it, as we climb the ladder, we need to pull others up with us. So there are others in the room I've had many a conversation with. I'm not going to call any names, but they know for a fact it's not a problem. Send a WhatsApp, send an email, pick up the phone and call. We answer questions to help everyone along the similar type journey themselves. So we'll dive into it here at one time. Twigs Naturals. This is the new look of the brand. We produce locally grown, packaged and processed teas. Our unique selling proposition is one where we give a taste of the Caribbean no matter where you are in the world. So whether or not you're familiar with the Caribbean experience, you're new to the world of Caribbean flavor, we give you that that experience through tea. We also produce seasonings as well. And if you are familiar with it and you're outside of the region, you're in the region, you get a slice of the nature without actually having to leave wherever you are. So that's what we sell. That's our unique selling proposition. On our journey, we've been blessed to have won a couple international awards. But it would have validated us on the international scale that we are of international standard, and it opened my mind in particular as an individual, not just a team, but my mind as an individual, that we got to know, but then what? And that's where we really started to change things significantly, and that's how we decided to kind of tweak the approach to make us more presentation ready for the international market. And I'll touch on that as we finish the overview. So at this point, we have a few international certifications under our belt. We are USFDA Food Safety Certified in the PCQI program. That's under the FSPCA program. We have GMP, so we have solid standards, solid documentation. We work with farmers. Unfortunately, it took a little while for NAMDEFCO to get their GAP program ready. So we work with farmers that are either GAP compliant or NAMDEFCO certified. So we start with a high quality product, right? What we've started to do is, apart from the awards, started to align the brand with local and regional organizations. So actually I'm a member of TTMA. Coach would have spoken about those such chambers and whatnot, helping small entrepreneurs and getting up. I'll put a little plug in. Yes. I've sat in a few meetings and rubbed shoulders with some of the more established entrepreneurs, more established businesses, and they are more than willing to lean to the side and offer some words of advice. TTMA as an organization, apart from training, the support staff is available to do some research on their behalf. You can ask questions for processes. We've used them for due diligence in the case of potential buyers in other parts of the world that had interest in the product, and they were able to track down whether or not these are reputable entities, that kind of thing. We're now members of STEER, the Short Stay Tourist Association of Trinidad and Tobago, aka the Guest House Association. So as we as Trinidad and Tobago in the COVID space, adapting to the staycations and whatnot, this is a great opportunity for us to share the flavor of Trinidad and Tobago to persons in Trinidad and Tobago. We're members of a regional organization as well in the hospitality industry, Country Style Community Development Network, and that's based in Jamaica actually. So it's the equivalent to a state in Jamaica, the small guest houses, the bed and breakfasts, that kind of thing. Our products, we use ingredients, as I said, grown here, unapologetically Trini. So we can actually say this is where X was grown or this is where that was grown. The advantage that brings in the space of tea and the seasoning as well is the concept of terroir. The mere fact that it has come from Trinidad and Tobago places a different value on your raw material, on your end product. So the people who do in chocolate like Mariposa, for example, we use Trinitario bean. And just because it's Trinitario bean, your product is placed in a very different price range. And that's important because what I've started to see is a lot of small entrepreneurs rolling out, and according to the earlier part of Coach's presentation, had spoken about the long tail of the markets. What we find is not just about uniqueness, but you're able to position your brand in low volume, high markup, high value product ranges. So Trinidad and Tobago chocolate is one of them. And because of how we produce our products, that's where Twigs Naturals has positioned its product range as well. So the types of ingredients we use will be things that are generally common to us here. We stick with the traditional orange peel, we have bay leaf, we have moringa, we have stuff with coconut, that kind of thing. All right. As I said, we do seasoning, and this is the general look of our product as well. So we've been able to pivot not just in the retail space, but 2020's original plan for us was to expand along with the membership in STAYOT, the Tourist Association, but to spread out in the hospitality and food service space, so the cafes and whatnot. That's where we started to grow. So basically, anywhere other than a Starbucks and Rituals, we planned to get into. Unfortunately, COVID, Mr. COVID, or they say Miss Rona, did her own thing. And we've actually lost a couple cafes in the course of the last 6 to 9 months. But some good news with that is that we've been able to sign with Cinnabon. So we're the actual local tea provider of choice for Cinnabon, Trinidad and Tobago. The blessing there is the fact that the franchise holder is actually franchise holder for the region. So the plan is as we grow, it's to present the tea to all their franchisees, their franchise locations as well. So the idea really is to not just look at the local market, but to push outwards. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. That gives an idea as to where Twigs Naturals has been at from a profile perspective. And then let me shift gears a bit into our export journey. Early on, we were part of the Kariri Business Hatchery program, and it is through that program we were introduced to Export TT. The first thing we would have done is sat with them, and they did an assessment where you guys want to be, what you want to do, and based on that, they then identified what we should have completed from a certification perspective. Do we need to buy equipment? So there was support from financial, go straight across the board to training. So one of the items on the training was identified was FDA food safety certification, and along that would have come the GMPs. The training programs within Export TT facilitated both, and because it's not just a matter of sit down in a class and take notes and I learn to do this and I learn to do that and I figure out how to do X, Y, and Z, but most of these sessions were practical. So you literally walk out of the room with a draft document. So Coach's session, for example, if I recall, would have been export planning and how to produce an export plan. It wasn't complete, but after the few days in the working session, we literally walked out the door with an export plan. And it was the same for food safety plans and the same for the GMPs. So within the conversation, the facilitators were also helpful in assisting you complete the program. And they, for the most part, are available for some time after to provide some support. So it's critical that you not just sit down and you go into these sessions just to take notes, but you take the opportunity as they're set up as working sessions to actually walk out the door with a framework for you to develop on. And that was the case for everybody from little ones like us all the way up to some established folks who had on their team new staff in the organizations. So it's critical that you use those opportunities to really turn it up. Also on the journey, we would have, after realizing the certification, we win a set of awards. Nobody wanted to buy the product because we weren't certified. Now that we're certified, who we sell it to? My previous to Twigs Naturals, my professional background actually was, lucky enough for me, digital marketing. So the market research team and the export promotions team were my best friends. And at the time, the Twigs Naturals team would have broken apart and identified different elements in our export plan that we developed after the assessment from Export TT. And then we would have identified different elements in the plan for us to tackle. So specific to export promotions and the marketing, we did the market research training. So the market research training, you do in market research, extra market research, you can get the stats. Coach would have spoken to a little earlier about entry into different markets based on the need for that market. So each market is different. We have available to us as clients of Export TT a host of reports, a host of case studies. So we would ask for a case study for market entry for the United States. We would ask for market data specific to United States. You can get a breakdown of in our case, tea imports for importers in different states, whether it's the diaspora or mainstream, if they're looking for a particular type of tea, if they're looking for a particular type of seasoning or whatever is the case. And then we drill down to figure out where and what the product fitting inside of there and how to enter into the market. And then the market promotions team, what they would have assisted with would have been to present to us potential buyers over the past few years. Unfortunately, most of the buyers presented, the conversations did not always end with 100% positive, mostly because the positioning may not have been where we would have liked for the product to sit. Some would have asked for private label, some would have asked for exclusivity, some would have, because of their experience, been more mass market. So it's not all the time you're gonna get an exact fit, but don't let that be daunting. Keep pushing, keep pushing. One of the other suggestions that we've realized is really helpful is your digital footprint. We entered into having a solid digital footprint really early in the game, and that would have been helpful along the way to the point where now, I'd say probably about September, November last year, the majority of the traffic on our website is actually non-Trini, non-diaspora, in areas that Trinidad and Tobago is actually third most popular source for traffic on our website for anywhere in the world. So what we've been able to do is use the inputs from the market research team, use the inputs from the marketing promotion team to kind of gauge how and who we speak to. What would have been helpful for us as well in that type of activity is, and I think everybody in Trinidad and Tobago who has a product that is ready for export, especially the food and beverage space, take a look at a website called rangeme.com, RANGEME.com. What RangeMe is about really is a marketplace showcase for natural and also agro-processed products to be presented to an international market. So buyers, be it Whole Foods or whoever is the case, will come there to kind of shop around to look at potential products. So we've done that. We've gotten a couple nibbles here and there. There is a free version of the subscription, but of course, like with everything, if you want to get as much out of stuff, you tend to need to have to pay a little bit to benefit. We've not paid any subscription as yet, but we do have plans in the next few months to do that. So now, as I would have said, we move from assessment into continuous training because we don't know everything. Continuous training to continuous consultation with Export TT staff, whether is co-financing because we had samples to send for so and so country, we'll get a return on 50% of the shipping costs, that kind of thing. Those bits of assistance help considerably. And we are now to the point where through digital reaching out to different points in the globe, we now have signed a distributor in the United States, non-diaspora. It's actually a Trini-running business, but her focus is non-diaspora, very niche, very gourmet type of product placement. And we have a buyer in the UK. Again, slightly different. Her focus, yes, is diaspora, but we are getting quite a bit of love in the non-diaspora space. So we're looking to pivot into that a little bit more. The gourmet, the high-end, low volume, high margin sort of presentation for our product. And we are in conversation with another European buyer, this time in Switzerland. Totally non-mainstream, so it's really the tail market, that segment we're leaning towards. So Twigs Naturals, as I said, is that's the direction as where we're moving at. That's pretty much our journey from walking in the door, asking for help, the assessment, the training, the marketing support, the market research, certification as well. I would say this much, it has not been a walk in the park. It is not an overnight experience. So set your mind that this is not going to happen tomorrow, right? This is not, I say it again, this is not going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen next week, it's not going to happen next month. But it did take some time, it did take quite a bit of work. For us, the biggest piece of work was also in the line of the processes, because in the food and beverage space in particular, the food safety side of things, your certification is more so tied to process management than anything else. So that's where we did quite a bit of work. We have challenges in the financing space, primarily due to the fact that the buyers are asking for credit, and dependent on where the market is, lines of credit vary. In Trinidad and Tobago, the standard is 30 days. In some countries, in LATAM in particular, what we've seen based on conversations from interested parties, they ask for as much as Cuba is 365 days. Dominican Republic could be as much as 100 days. So you'll need to have some sort of line of credit to keep your business floating till that cash comes in. You also have some challenges because our product is not necessarily in your regular mainstream diaspora spaces, we do have treaties to help for preferential market entry, but the supporting agencies do always, from a customs, go straight across to the board for shipping, do always have 100% comfort in the experience to push product out to certain parts of the world. But we've seen where there is a willingness to help. We have Export TT to kind of knock on the doors and push forward to help you along. For those that are looking at small web sales, we did that as well. We have a DHL account, so customers for some time would have been making their orders directly on our website. Shipping is a challenge from a cost perspective, so there are times when the end user ends up paying, like the example coach said, the value of the item is just about the value to ship it, or in some cases more. So what we've decided to do is, because tea is light, we can ship a bundle of items for the same cost as you would ship one item, because your first kilogram is a flat rate. So we presented a value proposition. So don't just buy for you, give a gift to a family member, and we bundle stuff together to add to that whole experience, just encouraging the customer to move from a one-off purchase to multiple, and buy the supplies, tea and seasoning online. Yeah, so those are some of the little things we've done to tweak, to twist, to toggle, to present ourselves as relevant in the international space. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nigel, for that journey. And I want to, again, seeing Nigel here, congratulate him and hold him up as a role model, and to congratulate him for the progress he has made, and to wish him all success going forward. And I hope his journey will be an inspiration for many of you who are considering starting off on his journey. And I would just like now to ask Tanika, okay, I've seen Nigel, you're a big hit. Wonderful sharing, all the best to you from Twigs. Thanks for sharing your insights, Nigel, much appreciated. Okay, so I just wanted to direct everyone to the chat where Tanika has put up a SurveyMonkey about a survey on SurveyMonkey on today's session. So could you please go to the chat, everyone? Just if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see chat, and if you click on chat, and when chat comes up, and you will see Tanika has a link. Please complete the export readiness assessment. And Ade is also asking Nigel to share his contact if he's willing to on the chat.
Sure, 48 Twigs.
All right, okay. He's asking you to share it on chat. And also, could everyone go on, just click on the link that Tanika has there, and it is an export readiness assessment. And just click on it, and I would appreciate if you could just take 5 minutes to share on the export survey that is being shared on chat. Marianne is saying, what an excellent session, lots of information, including a business case, engaging delivery of material, lots of opportunities to reflect on how the information shared here can be used to strengthen my business. Thank you, Export TT and team, for 3 hours well spent. Oh, thank you, Marianne, as well, for your kind words of encouragement, Marianne. Thank you very much. Please, everyone, on the chat, Tanika has shared an export. Could you please check it and hit on the link? Export TT, thanking Marianne. Alan Samaru, thanks. Leaving here feeling inspired. Look forward to more. And Nigel has shared his contact information. Thanks for everything, and I do look forward to working with all of you. Very informative from Karen Kaju. I've attended multiple Export TT webinars, and this has been one of the best sessions yet. Thanks, Coach Tanika and the entire team. Thank you, Adi.
Coach, responses are coming in. So far, I have 4 companies responding.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you from Mariposa Enterprises, encouragement to move forward. Soraya, what Export TT course would you recommend next to those of us who attended today? Excellent presentation, ready for the journey. From Brent Eversley. Mali Kwamena, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Mali. Mega Interiors. We need to talk. I'm excited to start exporting. Thank you, Mali. I am excited to hear that you're excited, Mali. Brent, thank you, Coach. Look out for my correspondence, Export TT. Create some premium employment. Mali, very good. And I have to order some tea from Nigel. So the next time I will be drinking Nigel's tea. Excellent seminar, very informative from Peter Nichols. Very informative and beneficial. Thank you, Peter. I have to go now, Mali. Thank you very much, Mali. Peter, Nigel, can we get your tea in Canada? Mali, time was well spent. Thank you, Mali. Thank you very much for your words of encouragement.
We're at 10 companies, 9 more to go. Please, persons, kindly go to the link. I can resend the link again for you to.
I think, Tanika, I think you should send it again because of the scrolling.
Yes.
Thank you, Nigel, for your invitation to reach out to you. Excellent advice and informative. Where and how do we start? Lakshman Ram Roop. Lakshman, Export TT will be contacting you. Have a blessed evening, everyone, from Mali Kwamena. Thank you, Mali. Adi, hey coach, just giving you a heads up that I'll be contacting you in the near future for some consulting services. I was in class at St. Mary's with Brett, and I'd love to have a chance to work with you. Take care and give my best to Sandy. I will. Sandy is on today's front page of the Express. If you saw today's Express. Paint, Mackenzie, Coach Bengo, it was a great session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Adi. I recognize your face when you mentioned Brett. All the best, everyone. Thank you again. Stay safe. Marianne, thank you very much, Marianne.